We are now continuing to the panel session, which will be moderated by Mrs. Devi Kausar, Ph.D. from Universitas Pancasila. So Mrs. Devi, the time is yours.
Can you hear me? Okay, I forgot that I was using a face shield. Okay, good morning. Thank you, Pak Rektor and Prof. Edi for the remarks this morning, and also Madam Niwayan Giri Atnyani for her remark and her keynote speech. Before we enter the session that we are waiting for, the keynote session with Professor Alastair Morrison and Dr. Hera Oktadiana as our keynote speakers for this morning, I would like to ask you to take a moment of silence to honor Professor Philip L. Pierce, a great scholar and an inspiration to all of us, who has contributed greatly to ITSA. Moment of silence begin. Thank you. Okay, so this morning we are really lucky to have two distinguished speakers joining us from Shanghai and from Townsville, Queensland, Australia. Okay, so I would like to introduce you to the session first. So first I will introduce the speakers, and then each speaker will have about half an hour for their presentation, and we will have the question and answer session for both speakers at the end of the keynote session. So I'm glad to introduce you to Professor Alastair Morrison, Ph.D., who is a research professor at University of Greenwich, London, UK, and also a distinguished professor emeritus, Purdue University, Indiana, USA. And we are very familiar with his books. Professor Alastair Morrison has served as the president of the International Tourism Studies Association and also the co-editor of the International Journal of Tourism City. He is currently the CEO of Bell Tourism International Consulting, or BTI, and authors of many books which also have been translated to simplified Mandarin, traditional Mandarin, Korean, Portuguese, Greek, and Slovak. Professor Morrison has received several teaching awards and honors, and he is an inspiration to all of us. Professor Alastair Morrison, please, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Devi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slide. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure an honor to be with you here today. I hope you can hear me. The title of my presentation is The Future for Tourism Cities. I have the honor to be the person leading off, and that's a great honor and a pleasure, especially since the conference is in Jakarta, Indonesia, which I know very well. Our conference theme is Culture, People, and Technology, the Driving Forces for Tourism Cities. And it's the 8th ITSA Biennial Conference. And I want to also say thanks to ITSA, Pancasila University, I think I pronounced it properly, James Cook University, Singapore, the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, Republic of Indonesia, and all of the participants. And I'm noticing in Zoom here that we have about 120 people, and that's fabulous. And I'm very excited that you're all there, and some of you are there in person, and some of you are with us virtually. But welcome. I want to say a few good mornings and welcomes. Selamat pagi, assalamu alaikum, good morning. And since I'm coming to you from China, Zhao Shanghai, And since I'm Scottish, Highland, Hebridean, Matin Va, good morning. The sources for my presentation today are two main sources. Number one is the International Journal of Tourism Cities, which is owned and operated by ITSA with the publishing company Emerald. And it's a Scopus listed journal. And a lot of what I'm saying is coming from this journal. And secondly, the Rutledge Handbook of Tourism Cities, which has just been published, about 600 pages of it, edited by myself and Andreas Koka-Stefaniak of University of Greenwich. And many of the ITSA faithful have chapters in here, and Hera and Philip, who was just mentioned, have a great chapter on tourism cities in Southeast Asia. So that's my two main sources in my good mornings. I hope you can hear me. I hope you're with me. No response. Okay. Yeah. Okay. A little word about IJTC here. It's a Scopus listed journal. We've just got a good site score tracker of 2.4 in November. We've just published 59 articles in 2020. It's the only existing academic journal that specializes in urban tourism and tourism cities. So it's a very appropriate journal for this conference. Very interestingly, and thank you very much, the top downloading countries are China, Malaysia, Indonesia, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Thank you in particular, China, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and also our Australian friends. We've done a lot of special issues recently. We've done one on the sharing economy. We've done one on over-tourism, the managing of smart tourism cities, tourism in Indian cities, dark tourism. And we have a couple of really good forthcoming issues. One is on sustainable tourism in cities, which is coordinated by Jonathan Day of Purdue University. And we have one on COVID-19 and one in tourism in ASEAN countries that I know Hera is going to talk a little bit more about that special issue. I just want to mention that we've had 24 issues in 6 years of IJTC. Again, I want to highlight this is ITSA's journal. Now, to begin my content, there was a recent report by UNWTO, their recommendations on urban tourism. And they said, alongside rapid urbanization, the growth of the tourism sector in recent years, driven by affordable transport, increased mobility, travel facilitation, new technologies such as digital platforms for property renting and hospitality services, and a growing middle class has made cities increasingly popular tourism destinations. So the mothership of DMOs, UNWTO, has said tourism in cities is becoming very, very popular. And that's good for places like Jakarta and Singapore and Shanghai and all the other great cities of the world. So despite what has happened to date in 2020 with COVID-19, I think the future looks very bright for tourism cities. Now, I want to mainly focus here on the current and future issues and challenges for city tourism. And I've listed 12 of them. And the graphic I have here kind of shows what the challenge is like in terms of identifying issues and trends for tourism. It's a very dynamic business and things are changing all the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're all in this tourism area and we love it because of its dynamism. So I've got 12 what I think are current and future tourism issues. And we have to begin with COVID-19, which began apparently in China in January. The previous speaker from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy quoted some figures that tourism will be down 70 to maybe 85% in the world in 2019. I think I'm very disappointed because I missed my annual trip to Indonesia. I've looked at my passport recently, and I've been to Indonesia 20 times recently, so I missed that trip because of COVID-19. Anyway, urbanization, that even before COVID-19, the major issue was urbanization, more people moving into cities and away from rural areas and putting more pressure on cities. Traffic congestion. This is a major issue because of population growth, and tourism contributes to this traffic congestion. I know that's a bit of an issue in Jakarta. Air pollution, that tends to come with economic development at factories, also with traffic congestion. That's another issue that's been identified. Overcrowding, this is the issue of over-tourism. Civil unrest, and we're seeing a great amount of that in the United States right now. Crime, terrorism, and the sharing economy. Sharing economy, of course, has a couple of sides to it, a positive side and perhaps a negative side as well. So those are some. Homogenization. This means that cities and tourism cities are becoming increasingly looking alike. And I was just thinking about living in China, and right now I'm not in Shanghai, I'm in Anhui province, and we have a Dairy Queen here, a KFC, a Starbucks, a Pizza Hut, and a McDonald's, and so on and so forth. So it's almost like living in the United States. So every place is becoming looking very similar, and that's an issue. Gentrification. This means that traditional neighborhoods within cities are being modernized and changed to look like more modern civilization. And this is again leading to more homogenization and moving authentic and traditional areas of cities. And I think it is happening in Jakarta as well. And then water supply. Not an issue for every city around the world, but recently Cape Town in South Africa has had quite an issue with water supply. So, you know, it's what can we say here? We could say that COVID is kind of at the front of our minds. However, there are many other current and future issues and challenges for city tourism that we have to be aware of and to plan for. And urbanization is probably the key there. So there's 12 here. So it's kind of like a perfect storm, if you like, of issues. Now, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that the United Nations has suggested these Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. And one of them is particularly focused on cities and communities. And they're asking that we make cities and human settlements more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So the idea of sustainability is so important as we develop and we also market tourism cities. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And we're very pleased, of course, with our journal, IJTC, that is addressing this particular aspect of SDG 11. Now, I think that some of the major challenges and issues affecting tourism and urban sustainability is, and I've got 9 here. I've given you kind of 12 already, but I've got 9 here in terms of both sides of the issue. And here we're enjoying urbanization and urban growth, but that is challenging the sustainability of cities as communities grow, as the pressure on city resources grows, infrastructure, transportation, water. So as cities grow, they get better in many ways. They modernize, they have more facilities and services. However, it puts more pressure on sustainability. This is the over-tourism issue, that the residents of cities, they want to be free from disturbance. They want to live their life as they've done traditionally. However, the visitors, and I like to use the word visitors rather than tourists, they want authentic experiences. So authentic experiences means rubbing shoulders with the local people. So these are kind of two ends of the spectrum. So how do we maintain the freedom of residents from disturbance, but give visitors authentic experiences. It's a bit of a conundrum. In several cities, we have antisocial visitor behavior versus responsible travel. For example, this is happening in many of the cities in the former communist countries of Eastern Europe, where people are going for these drunk tourism kind of experiences, and they're not acting responsibly, and this is irritating local people, and it's also going against what the other visitors are wanting to experience within these cities. So I call this antisocial visitor behavior versus responsible travel. As population grows, there's an increase in pollution, solid waste pollution, air pollution, and so those are kind of against each other, the population growth versus the lack of pollution. Again, mentioned this, globalization, homogenization versus city uniqueness. People want to travel to cities for unique experiences. How can they be unique if there's a McDonald's, a KFC, a Pizza Hut, and a Starbucks, of course? Some people want these, of course. Other people would rather not see them. And then, what about traffic congestion versus freedom of movement? These are kind of opposing kind of views. And then crime and terrorism is growing versus the growing need for safety and security. So again, that's two sides of the spectrum. It's a challenge. And then we want to maintain traditional neighborhoods to maintain our authenticity. However, more neighborhoods that are traditional are being gentrified, are being changed and made more modern and up to date, which in some ways is good because the infrastructure is improving for the local residents, but they're being moved out and losing their homes. And the other conundrum or the other challenge is the rising costs of real estate versus affordable housing. City governments want to give more of these citizens who are moving into cities affordable housing, yet the costs of real estate are increasing. So those are 9 challenges and issues affecting tourism and urban sustainability, I believe. And there are surely more. Okay. So what are potential solutions to these challenges? What contributes to more sustainable and responsible tourism in urban areas, particularly in tourism cities? I think there are 8 urban tourism sustainability enhancers. I have a photograph here. I hope you can see it on my slides, and it's from Tokyo. It's an image of their move to become a biophilic city, to make the city greener, in other words. So I think that for me, the 8 enhancers, number 1, are that cities adopt a destination management approach and philosophy. The cities and the governments of cities in particular recognize that we need to have destination management and a philosophy of destination management. The greening of cities, as shown in the illustration here for Tokyo, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. So making cities greener. And then pollution reduction, for sure. And responsible travel behavior. It is in the hands not just of the city governments and the DMOs, it's in the hands of the visitors to behave more responsibly. And I think that COVID has brought us a lot of bad things. COVID has brought us a lot of bad things, including a decrease in visitors. However, it's put a greater focus on sustainability and responsible tourism, responsible travel. It's also put more focus on domestic tourism. And I think that is long overdue, that we put more emphasis on domestic tourism versus international tourism. It's also helped us to make better use of technology, as the previous speaker said. So, responsible travel behavior. Smart city initiatives, of course, and I think that EIS will talk maybe about that later in the day. Technology there. Tourism dispersion. We need to move around the visitors within cities so that they're not crowding certain areas. And then I think that above all, to have leaders for tourism who have a vision and who have a vision of the future, and their feet are not just planted in the present, but they have a vision of how the city will look in the future and how the people of the city want it to look in the future. So I think visionary leadership probably is the most important of these 8 things, although I do believe in city destination management as well. And then visitor management, I think that this is important, that we need to not just manage the tourism sector and the businesses, but we need to manage the visitors as well, and make sure they enjoy themselves, and they don't experience too much crowding, too much pollution, etc. Now, a couple of examples very quickly here, because I know that we're a little bit late and that I don't want to take all of my time as well. I think Singapore, being so close by to you, is a great example of a biophilic city. And I really like, and I think you should look at their park connector network. I think it's a very, very good concept where the parks are connected and you don't have to cross roads and busy highways to get from one park to the other. And they have different circuits and chains of these parks. And they're trying to become not a garden city, but a city in a garden is their slogan. Another city that I believe is doing a very good job in sustainability is Copenhagen in Denmark, the capital of Denmark. And their DMO, Wonderful Copenhagen, has just done a 10 times Copenhagen project where they interviewed many visitors, many residents about their attitudes towards tourism, what was good in tourism in Copenhagen, what needed to be improved. And the one thing that came through very, very loudly in this 10 times Copenhagen was the bikeability, that you could ride your bicycles around most parts of Copenhagen, and that was from the residents and the tourists. And as you can see in the photograph here on my slides, I hope you can see the example here. So those are just 2 examples of Singapore and Copenhagen that I think are really showing leadership in terms of becoming more sustainable and more responsible. And that's kind of one of the themes of my presentation. Now, another source for my presentation today, and I've got a little bit of forthcoming in 2021, and probably will in 2022 on it, is World Tourism Cities, A Systematic Approach to Urban Tourism, a book for Routledge by myself and Christina Maxim of the University of West London in the UK. So this is where this material is coming from. I think that I want to suggest here something called RAPID, the RAPID model, as the future recommendations for tourism cities. And this is based on the book and what we've written, pretty much is finished. First of all, the R is for recognize. Recognize the importance of urban tourism and its contribution to the development of cities and towns. I know in many countries, and I think in Indonesia as well, there's a lot of emphasis on the whole country, and not enough emphasis on the major cities like Jakarta, Bandung, Surabaya, Medan, and forth, in Pasar. So urban tourism, city tourism, tourism cities have been under-recognized. So I think, first of all, we need to recognize. Second, the A is for adopt. We need to adopt all the city destination management roles, and I'm going to describe them soon as 7+1, adopt. We should prepare regular tourism plans and strategies and use participative tourism planning processes. Not every city has a tourism plan or a strategy for the future. And then that is a great shame, and it's much needed. The I of RAPID is to insist on professional and systematic destination marketing and branding, and the necessity for research, data collection. There is a lot of marketing and branding of cities that's being done in a seat of the pants kind of approach. It needs to be more systematic, and we need to have more data available. And then,
Professor
last but
Morrison?
not least,
Okay.
we need to devote greater priority to resident quality of life and well-being and emphasize sustainability. And that's one of the major themes of my presentation to you, my keynote today. So that's the RAPID model, which outlines the recommendations for tourism cities for the future. Now, I said I would talk about city destination management and approach and philosophy and 7+1, and here's the model. Cities should be involved, their DMOs should be involved in leadership, coordination, and governance. They should be concerned. They should be doing planning and research. They should have community and stakeholder relationships, not just relationships, but involvement. They should be involved in product development. They should be positioning, marketing and branding the destination, promoting and branding the destination. They should be involved in partnership and team building, visitor management I've mentioned, and +1 is crisis management. Many cities, many destinations were just not prepared for COVID-19. They were not ready, although all of the experts were saying you need to have a crisis management plan for tourism. Not many cities had them, and they were caught. Now, I'm just going to, that's my screen here so I can see it. We need to understand how to measure the success of cities. Getting some things off my screen here. Okay, so I can see my slides. And I think this 10 A's model is pretty well known to everybody. Okay.
Excuse me, Prof. Morrison, can we have
Yes.
3 more minutes, please? Thank you.
I'll be finished in 3 minutes. Don't you worry, Debbie. Okay.
Sure.
We need to
Thank you.
understand how to measure city tourism success, and I think these 10 A's are the key to measuring success: awareness, accessibility, availability, attractiveness, activities, appearance, assurance, appreciation, accountability, and action. These are the 10 aspects of city tourism and tourism cities that we should be measuring. I want to recommend the advice model to you as well, using UNWTO 2020. In a time of intense debate over the growing number of tourists and the livability and sustainability of cities, it is essential that all stakeholders, residents, visitors, local, regional, and national, and the private sector work together to respond to the current and upcoming challenges. Okay, now, so I suggest the advice model, and that's short for authority, government, destination, visitor, industry, community, and the environment. And in the middle of that is the community. So in the past, we've had the industry at the center of everything. I think in the future, and after the COVID-19, the community should be at the center. So, terima kasih. I want to recommend for further reading some books, some great books, Marketing and Managing Tourism Destinations in its 2nd edition. And I hope Shingran is watching. The Tourism System, now in its 8th edition. Terima kasih, thank you very much for listening, and I'm looking forward to Hera's presentation and to your Q&A later. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Professor Morrison. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause and virtual applause for Professor Alastair Morrison? Thank you, Professor. So it's a very insightful presentation, challenges and issues affecting tourism cities. Apart from COVID, we also have challenges in gentrification and homogenization, or cities becoming uniform. So sustainability is not only about ecologically sustainable, but also a city that can accommodate its various residences. I think that's the lesson that we can learn from Professor Alastair Morrison this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the next keynote speaker, Dr. Hera Oktadiana, CHE. Let me introduce her first. Okay, so Professor Hera Oktadiana earned her Ph.D. from the School of Hotel and Tourism Management, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. She is also a certified hospitality educator, and she has been the leader of hotel management study program in Bina Nusantara University and several other positions in universities in Indonesia. She is currently an adjunct senior lecturer at the James Cook University, Townsville, Australia, while also being affiliated with the Tourism Postgraduate Program of Trisakti School of Tourism. Dr. Hera Oktadiana will talk about Muslim tourism, especially this morning. Dr. Hera, the time is yours.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, thank you, Dr. Devi, for inviting me to share as the keynote speaker here for the ITSA 2020. And I would like to say good morning and selamat pagi untuk Bapak Ibu semua di sini yang telah hadir, and also good morning for all the ITSA friends and all the participants of ITSA 2020. I'm glad that I can be here, although actually it will be great for me if I can be in Indonesia. As the Indonesian, of course, I would like to be there in person in Jakarta to talk directly with you. But unfortunately, because of the situation, it's not possible for me to travel at the moment. So I'm stuck here in Australia. And of course, after Philip Pierce passed away, my husband passed away, this has been a very difficult month for me and my daughter and also Pierce's family. And I'm glad that I would be standing here to share the work that I had with Philip. I would like to thank all my ITSA friends and then people from Pancasila University, from James Cook University, Hildi Tipari, all my friends that I cannot mention in here, even the non-academic friends, without their support, and also, of course, with my family in Indonesia. Without their supports, I would be here, especially the less than the last month. I was admitted to the emergency department in the hospital, but I was okay after all the tests and everything. It was just the grieving that I experienced because of the loss of my husband. So without further ado, I would like to share with you some of the works that I had with Philip, and actually there is some of the works that we are still developing, and I'm trying to continue the work to maintain the legacy. Yeah, I'm going to share with you all the my PPT. Yeah, so this is my work about Muslim tourists. There are several works that we had done in here in this field, so I would like to share some of them. So the first one is about the Muslim tourist motivation, and the second part is about female Muslim millennials, and then about the information search by the Muslim tourists. So this is only just a brief explanation about the Muslim tourists. Probably you've known about this information because it was stated in the several reports like the Global Muslim Tourism Index and MasterCard Crescent Rating reports that Muslims actually the world's fastest growing religious group, by 2050, around 1 in 3 people will practice Islam, or about 2.8 billion people. And by 2026, it is predicted that the number of international Muslim travelers will double from 140 million in 2018 to 280 million by 2026. Now, the first part of the research is how different is the travel motivation with other tourists. So how different are the motivation of the Muslim tourists? First of all, I would like to share you the meaning and value of travel for the Muslims. So there are several motivations underpinning the Muslim travelers. For example, Muslim people, they like to socialize and meeting other people, to maintain the relationship with family and also the friends, and they like to meet with other people. They like to understand the cultural diversity. They would like to broaden their mind by travel, to appreciate the God creation and the nature, to enhance the health and the well-being, as well as to learn from the history or the past, and then to help the community and learn about the community conditions. So these are some of the motivations of the Muslim tourists to travel. The work of the Muslim travel motivation based on the work of my late husband, Philip. He actually developed the travel career pattern, or is called TCP approach, which was developed based on the travel career ladder in 1982 and 88. So he keeps developing this this approach. This TCP was applied to analyze the travel motivation of the Muslim tourists and the other traveler groups. So this approach has been used not only for the Muslim tourists, but also for other groups such as the backpackers and also the spa, health, and visitor tourists, and so on. So the first one, the motivation of tourists. There are two main work that I presented in here. One is the motivation of the Indonesian and Malaysian Muslim tourists, and also this is the research in progress. Actually, it hasn't been published yet because when we finalized this one, Philip already passed away, so I need to finish this the work. It's called Travel Motivation of Muslim Tourists. Are they really different? So we use the survey or the questionnaire and the benchmarking to compare, and we analyze using the descriptive analysis and factor analysis. So if you can see in here, this is the travel career pattern approach. This is a source from the latest book from Philip, 2019, because he kept modifying and changing the model to make the model more, better. So if you can see in here, the Muslim tourists' main motive is relationship. So they focus on the building relationship with family and friends, how to strengthen the relationship. And then the second motive, which is also important for the Muslim tourists, is the nature. So appreciating the nature, harmony and appreciation of the nature, which is actually not in the core motive, but also actually it is in the middle layer motive, in the middle layer motives. And the third one is the novelty. So to experience something different and also something fun or leisure. While the Western, Asian, and other traveler groups, so this is based on the several studies that use the travel career pattern approach, it was found that most of them, they appreciate escape or novelty. Novelty is as the number one travel motivation, followed by the escape or relax, so away from the routine and then resting. And then the third one is the nature. So we can see in here, there are a little bit of differences in terms of the focus of the travel motivation between the Muslim tourists and the other group of tourists. While the Muslim tourists really value the relationship, maintaining relationship and nature, the other tourists they I think they appreciate more on the escape and relaxation and novelty. However, there are also similarities in the core, middle, and outer motives. So if you can see in here, the core motive is the novelty, although the degree of the importance probably is a bit different. And the middle motive, both of the sides of both groups, they really appreciate nature, and also they appreciate the self-development or personal development. In Philip's newest book, 2019, it became self-enhancements, and the relationship or security became the kinship or belonging in his new book. And then the last one is the recognition or social status. It is the outer motive. It includes actually the appreciation of the experiencing of the fashionable places in the social status. So as the highlight, if we can compare between Muslim tourists and the Western tourists, we can see that nature and cultural sites in the Muslim tourists are all integrated. So nature includes a desire to link with the host site and the community, while in the Western tourists, nature is not linked to the cultural and social forces. So it's more like a bit more independent. The personal development and self-actualization, they are also closely linked because they reflect the Islamic point of view of a journey as the serving personal development and spiritual growth, while in the Western group, the personal development and self-actualization are quite can be quite differentiated. So personal development involves like developing skills, competency, abilities, and interests, and self-actualization focus on the understanding about themselves and working on the personal or spiritual values. Muslim tourists, they favor relationship strengthening. That's why relationship is very important. It's one of the highest motive. While for the Western tourists, novelty is probably the most sought in when they're doing any travel. Plus, of course, we have to note in here, religion and culture also have the influence on the motive to travel, because Malaysia and Indonesia, in this case, they are collectivist society. So it may be, there may be some differences found in other contexts. For example, maybe the Muslim from the Middle East or the Muslim living in Europe or even in Australia or in other parts of the world. So that's why probably more studies to compare those Muslim tourist motivation, I think will be interesting to do. And then the second one is regarding the female Muslim travelers, because there has been lack of studies or probably limited studies talking about millennial female Muslim. So what do they say about traveling? This is based on our work, which just recently published in 2020 in International Journal of Tourism Research. It's called Let's Travel, Voices from the Millennial Female Muslim Travelers. This is the work that I did with Philip and Philip's former student, Lydia, who is now working in China. So this is only the highlight about female Muslims. So Muslim women, they can work, they can travel, and they can also participate in sport. And 63 million Muslim women traveled in 2018, and they spent about 80 billion on the trip. And 2/3 of the group were 40 years of age and younger. And this group of travelers are growing and actually represent one of the top 10 halal travel trends. Most of these women travelers travel with a family, about 71%, 28% that travel solo, 29% travel in the all-female group, and the 22% travel in the mixed gender group. In this study, we did the archival media documents from the Google search engine. So there are several keywords that we use in here. And all the keywords actually led to the various websites and link for further examination. And after that, we found 6 most frequently mentioned and cross-referenced young female Muslim travel or young women Muslim travel bloggers. However, from the 6, only 5 that finally we selected, because one blogger was actually having blog with the husband. So we didn't want the blog that jointly written by the spouse. We only want the blogs that were written by just this individual female millennial Muslim. So after examination, we found 906 topics written between 2014 and 2018. And after the further analysis, not only the topics that we examined, but we also included 67 of their publications in the media, and also 13 interviews with the bloggers in the media. We used the Leximansar and the content analysis to analyze the information. In this study, we employed the critical media discourse analysis, or CMDA, based on the work of Lee, Pierce, and Lowe 2018. So basically, it's from the classical model of the critical discourse analysis. In the CMDA, we focus on the textual analysis, which is objects and the actors, layout and structural organization, and then contextual analysis, which contains evolutionary changes and social embeddedness. So let's see the result of the finding. First of all, I would like to share with you the profile of the 5 leading millennial female Muslim travelers in this case. So they are various cultural background. And these female bloggers, they were raised in the multicultural environment or had multicultural background or experiences. The age range between 20s to the early 30s. And out of 5 bloggers, 1 is married and 4 singles. And 4 of them have a bachelor and master degrees, but 1 blogger not known. We didn't know the educational background of one of the bloggers. And the bloggers started the blogs in different years, from 2011 to 2017. Besides the blogs, they also have other social media accounts, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and also YouTube. And these bloggers, the travel bloggers, they actually have 1,000 and 1,000 of followers in each social media and also in the blogs. When we talk about using the CMDA, the first part is the textual analysis, object and the actors. So we can see that the stories about female Muslim travelers emerged in 2013, and the stories are still growing. And the millennial female Muslim travel bloggers are the actors and the producers who recorded and share their traveling experiences as a Muslim. They like to share what they had during their travel to other people and to encourage people, especially other women, to travel. And the discussions range from the reason for travel, and then how to travel solo, and then what is the motivation writing the travel blogs, Islamophobia, and then traveling ban, obstacles to travel, and their negative and positive experiences during the travel, and travel destination. These bloggers like to post photos of the destination, usually attractions, landscape, and buildings. And of course, they like to have a photo with the food when they visit a destination. For the textual analysis, the second part is the layout and the structural organization. So these stories of the bloggers begin with the depiction of reason in creating the travel blogs for Muslim travelers. So most of the reasons are because they want to defeat the negative perception about Islam, about Islamophobia. And the stories were told with images that also link to the other posts or media publication. The blog contents inform various information about what the Muslim needs and should know when they're traveling. For example, like halal food, halal hotel, airline, access to the halal restaurant, Muslim-friendly destination, even including Hajj and Umrah. The blog or the websites also provide space for the guest posts. The second part of the CMDA is the contextual analysis. The first one is the evolutionary changes. So we can see there is a shifting of stories between 2014 and 2015 to 2016 and 2018. Between 2014 and 2015, most of the bloggers talk about travel information in general, such as hotels, the cost, location, and then also the flights, like flight costs, and then the destination. So it's very common. So it's not really specific to the Muslim. But in 2016 and 2018, there is a shifting of the information. So they talk more about the unique travel needs and experiences for the Muslim, for example, halal food and travel during Ramadan. The second part of the contextual analysis is the social context. So we can see that the stories and articles presented in their blogs actually portray their opinions, the knowledge and travel experiences of the writers as the female Muslim, to influence and change the perspective and attitudes of the people towards Islam and Muslim stereotypes. To confirm to Rodrigo and Turnbull work 2019 on the Muslim perceived values, so that they are functional value, emotional value, social value, epistemic value, conditional value, and Islamic value. So in here we can see that for those female Muslim, the functional value include, like, for example, the budget hotel, the unique place, features of destination, Muslim-friendly street food, and weather. And then the emotional value include the positive and negative experiences when they travel, including when they're happy to meet people who are helpful, and then the fear of being threatened by others, or when they were like when they receive unpleasant treatment because they were wearing hijab. So that's part of the emotional value. And the social value includes the friendliness of the local people. The epistemic value, one of them is like the way they see the travel as a means to grow and to gain knowledge and experience, to learn something new. The conditional value includes the security and safety aspect and the Muslim-friendly destination. And then the last one, the Islamic value, that includes the dress, the way they dress as a Muslim women, like about wearing hijab, halal meals, and also the appreciation to the God's creation. And this female Muslim also has influence on the businesses by the demand for halal products and services, not just on the travel side, but also for the food, for the hotel, even fashion and cosmetics. So as the highlight, Muslim travel blogs, travel website, and press or media from the independent Muslim female travelers are very important in inspiring others. So there is a strong tendency for this group of women to rely on the comments provided by the blogs or social media to get information before they plan their travel and make decisions. This group also shifts the development of halal travel with the specialized demand on the travel services and products that can meet the women's personal and relationship need. Integrity, respect, and sustainability are also the main features of the changing demand expressed by this type of travelers. And but you can and also please. We need to note that there are cultural and social differences between these millennial Muslim women. So they are not alike and they do not represent any single culture or region. And then this is the information search. So when the Muslim travelers want to travel, what do they want to know about travel? So this one is based on the study. This is the chapter that recently published about panorama of Muslim tourist queries. What do they want to know about traveling? So this chapter is part of the last edited book of Philip Pierce and together with Antonio Carrera. So Philip actually hasn't seen this hard copy of the book because he already gone. But I'm sure he would be very happy and very proud that his last edited book came out eventually. And based on this study, actually this is based on the Trip Advisory Forum. I use the true approaches in here using the Google search and Trip Advisory Forum webpage. And I use also content analysis to examine the posts. And after hundreds of posts, I found 76 posts and 70 topics closely related to the Muslim travelers' queries. I also found 381 responses, mainly from the level 6 contributors, 80%. But in here,
Excuse me, Dr. Hera. Dr. Hera, sorry. 2
yes.
more minutes.
Yeah, okay, just give me a little more.
Okay.
Multiple responses given to one query from the same person is counted as one. Okay. So this is the post by the Muslim travelers, the travel companion. So most of them, they travel with family and friends, and a little bit solo travel. And these are the destinations that they like to go, mainly Asia, and then Europe, Thailand, South Korea, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Israel, Myanmar, Malaysia, France, Italy, Switzerland, and Spain are the top destination for these Muslim tourists when they're seeking information from the Trip Advisory Forum. And these are the queries posted by the Muslim travelers at the Trip Advisory Forum. So about 30% they like to know about access to halal restaurant or halal food. And then 25% ask about safety and security. And then about excursion, about Muslim tour, accommodation or halal Muslim friendly hotel, transportation and distance, and destination information and meeting local people. Destination information mainly about halal or Muslim friendly destination, the most visa immigration policy or event and shopping. So the type of the queries using the Wolf model that I adopted from O'Reilly and Robinson. So there are 4 types of queries using the Wolf model: onboard query, Wonderland query, flagship query, and lame duck query. So it's based on the level of precautions taken by traveler and level of information generated. So most of the questions asked by the Muslim tourists is on onboard query, 44%. It's only very basic question with a straightforward answer, such as halal food or halal restaurant. Wonderland query also the same, but they generate many responses. Flagship query and lame duck query usually the high level of perceived risk, like the safety and security. But in this one, the questions receive a high number of responses. So if you look at the comparison of the information sought between Muslim traveler study and the general study, we can see that Muslim tourists mainly ask about halal food, halal restaurant, and access to halal restaurant, not just a place to eat or not about the taste of the food. And for the safety, they also concerned about safety from discrimination, crime, and assault, and safety for the Muslim women, because especially for the one who are traveling solo and wearing hijab. And for the itinerary and excursion, you can see that the tours, mainly they want to know about tours for Muslim or tours for the solo Muslim travelers, instead not just the tours planning or activities. And accommodation, apart from the just accommodation, general information about accommodation, they also like to know about halal food in the hotel and Muslim-friendly hotel. And transportation, this is interesting because they, apart from the public transport and other common queries about transportation, they also want to know the access or the distance, how to go to the mosque. So the mosque to the destination and so on, or to the hotel. And destination information, they focuses on the places for prayers or mosque. They ask about halal or Muslim-friendly destination, and then also visa and immigration. And then this is the last one, just a little bit more on information. This is the paper that also just recently published on the special dietary requirements on the restaurants in 6 cities: Bali, Singapore, Sydney, Paris, Dubai, and Doha. The paper that I wrote with Philip and also helped by our friend Zora. So at that time, we would like to know how the restaurants in 6 cities actually responding to the vegan and vegetarian lifestyle, the food allergy, and also religious restriction. We found that there was a lack of information about religious restriction on the menu. Only few restaurants in Singapore and Bali actually provided information about religious belief, especially halal for Muslim and Jain for Jainism. And in the trade advisory sites, we found conformity to halal requirements was actually noted in restaurants in Dubai and Doha, but those information actually did not appear on the menus. But most of the restaurants,
Ibu Hera, sorry, time is up.
Yeah, can you give me 2 minutes? I'm going to the almost the end of the slide. Thank you. So most of the restaurants provided information on vegan and vegetarian and some on the food allergy, particularly in Sydney. Yeah, and this is one of the paper that actually selected as the best quality research paper by the Ministry of Research and Technology. And then as a conclusion, many studies actually can be done in the area of Muslim travelers, such as cultural and religious Islamic occasion, the meaning and power of travel for individual well-being in Islamic life, management of separation sexes, the study of shopping preference and needs, communication and interaction with Muslim tourists, comparison of information, and also how the online community influenced the Muslim tourists in visiting a destination. So last but not least, this is a publication opportunity because this is linked to the ITSA 2020 conference and workshop in Jakarta and Singapore. So we would like to invite the researchers to submit to the special issue about contemporary trends, issues, and challenges in Southeast Asian tourism cities. You can send me the inquiries and abstract submission to my email. The paper deadline is 5 June 2021. Yes, so thank you very much, and terima kasih for all your kind attention. And you know, life is short; it is just a temporary journey. So live your life with the good deeds that benefit others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Hera. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause or virtual applause for Dr. Hera Oktadiana? A very great and insightful presentation, especially on Muslim travelers. Now, we have come to the question and answer session. We have a question here for Professor Alastair Morrison from Mr. Loka Hendra in Trisakti School of Tourism. His question is, apart from the challenges of sustainable tourism and recommendation of tourism success, what does the future hold for travel and tourism, especially after the COVID-19 impact? What is your point of view on that? And are you optimistic? Professor Morrison, please. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good question. I'm very optimistic about the future of tourism. I believe that the COVID-19 has been a disaster for tourism. However, I believe the future is very good, and we've learned a great deal during COVID-19. It's taught us many lessons, and I hope we were paying attention. I'd like to say first that many things that we were doing in tourism as practitioners and academics weren't really that great before we went into COVID-19. So COVID-19 hasn't caused all of the ills that we have. I think we need to be more professional in terms of destination management. I think the scholars, and particularly the ITSA scholars, we have to get closer together geographically, and we have to get closer to the industry. There's a major gap between industry and academia. And I was listening to Hera's presentation, which was absolutely wonderful. And there's so much good information there for practitioners. But how do we disseminate that information to the industry and teach them how to use it? So I'm very optimistic about the future. I think that I hope we learned that we should be ready for these kind of crises in the future. So no, it's a great industry to be in. It's a great research area to be in. Encourage you all to get involved in ITSA in the future. And as Hera said, please submit your articles to the International Journal of Tourism Cities in the special issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Morrison. Ibu Hera, do you also have an opinion for that question?
I think it's covered by Prof. Alastair.
Okay, so the message that is delivered to us is we have to be optimistic about the future. Yeah, I think both Professor Morrison and Dr. Hera Oktadiana agree to that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we actually don't have any more question on the chat room. I'm sure the authors and the presenters and also the audiences can contact Ibu Hera and also Professor Morrison directly for further question or inquiries or maybe proposal for collaborative research. And so this session is, we can wrap up this session right now. But before we close, as a token of appreciation, okay, we would like to show our certificate of appreciation for both keynote speakers. Professor Alastair Morrison, thank you very much for being with us this morning, and thank you for your insightful presentation. I'm sure many people are, enriched, and we look forward to meeting you in person directly when the pandemic is over. Stay safe and healthy, and thank you very much. Terima kasih, Professor Morrison.
Terima kasih.
Okay, there's a loud applause from our offline audiences here. Okay, the next one is, can we have Dr. Oktadiana? Okay, and Dr. Hera, thank you very much for sharing your insightful research. I would especially be interested in the Muslim female traveler, which is very interesting, I think. And thank you for sharing with us this morning. And stay safe and healthy. And there is also a big applause from our offline audiences here, and I'm sure also virtual applause. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and we will move to the breakout session. I will return this to our Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.